So welcome everybody, and to those of you who are on watching it afterwards on in the members area, welcome, and I hope you enjoy our discussion today, which is going to be about breath work. So I have with me, as always, my wonderful friend and colleague Jade, and we have been working together for a while now. And some of you may have experienced the combination of the breath work and the light codes that we've done together. And also Jade has done a couple of sessions for Blue Pool that she did that were in the members area as well. So you can always go in there and find those if you're a member. Um, and it's really profound work. And although I'd actually experienced it online and I'd experienced it on the group sessions, Jade did a one-to-one with me last week, it shifted so much for me. So it is incredibly powerful. So it's great that that Jade's going to be talking about that today, because she can talk about her journey with breath work, and the different ways in which that can help you. So welcome and thank you, Jade.
Yes, we have been having a lot of fun, haven't we, with our sessions? And actually, I just had a session this morning with Sandra with her amazing work, which was incredible. So, yes, but yeah, breath work. Now, this is such a big topic that obviously it gets its own call because when we talk about empowered wholeness and wellness, breath work really is that one thing that brings in all those elements: the physical, the mental, the spiritual. So it's really, really powerful work that, I mean, you could just list the benefits for a very, very long time. But I suppose speaking about how I got into breath work, because I started this kind of wellness journey, more on the physical, nutrition, gut health, all those things. And it wasn't until I experienced really high levels of anxiety that I needed to look at other things to assist me. And that's when breathwork came into my awareness and started practicing every week in a group scenario, which actually I always say now, I wouldn't suggest it necessarily that way if your nervous system was as in that sympathetic nervous system as much as mine was, because breathwork can really bring a lot to the surface. And before then I hadn't had any one-to-one sessions, so I always say it's great if you are experiencing a lot to do it on a one-to-one basis, but if not, a group scenario like I did was incredible. And even though it was very confronting, because breathwork really does bring up what's in our subconscious to the surface. That's one of the big things, and we get to work with that. But also it's anything that we have in terms of our body, in terms of contraction, tension, fear, it also will show you that to you. It will kind of come up. You will be able to have this intimate relationship with your body and your own energy field, because the breath is that bridge between us and our energy field, life and consciousness. So you really are experiencing yourself on such a deep level. And so when I started doing breath work, I was just noticing how much I could just shift and move things and start to calm down my body. And again, there's all different types of breath work. So again, I went into a more extreme breath work when I started, which isn't recommended if you're experiencing high levels of anxiety, because it was through the mouth. That's actually my first time I've done breath work. And that activates our sympathetic nervous system. It puts us more into that stress response, which is amazing if we're building that resilience. And that's kind of like that Wim Hof as well. It's putting us into a stress response, and it really pushes things to the surface hugely. So your body will feel more tense and contracted. And it's a very much a body experience too. And you can imagine my body was such in a state of fight or flight that when I'd done it, I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? What is going on? But I intuitively was so guided all the way that I knew, wow, there is something in this. There is something really amazing that this is doing for me. And so I continued for about a year weekly, going through my own form of therapy every single week. And then I started doing one-to-ones, and then I started training myself so I can help others. And I haven't even intentionally chosen to do breathwork as my main modality that I'm helping people with, but it seems to be the thing that people come back to me for again and again and again. I have some people that want like their 20th session. because no two sessions are ever the same with breathwork. And that's the amazing thing about it. It's not scripted in any way. It's your own breath that's guiding you. And so there is always, as we all know, there is so many layers to our healing to uncover, which is a beautiful journey. And yeah, so I do a lot with, subconscious and somatic work, which you can combine all with breathwork as well. And that's what me and Sandra found, that the breath is used in so many modalities, isn't it? Like yoga, like ancient times, the breath has always been used. And I don't even think we've really stepped into the full capacity of how we can actually use it. And that's what me and Sandra have been doing at the moment with
Mm.
the energy work, because as I said, with the breath work, you are stepping into your own energy field and having that experience with it. And you have this like subtle relationship with like feeling things that you wouldn't necessarily feel when you're just going about your day to day. Or even if you're just sitting in your chair doing a box breath or something, you don't go to the deeper levels with the type of breath work that I do. I think Sandra has frozen. Oh, you're back.
Go back. Yes, I think it's coming. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I think we're back. Yes, yes. I
Okay.
saw everybody freezing as well. So
Yeah. So,
yes, yeah. It's been really fascinating to actually experience that and understand it, because it's so profound. And when I experienced it last week when we did it, I felt it on such a deep level. On It was like my whole body was involved in the process, which wasn't necessarily what I'd expected. So I could really feel the energy of my whole body as we were going through the process, and the amount of relief that I had afterwards was profound. I don't know if you can hear me.
yeah, I can hear you
I
just
hear, but
really
it's just freezing.
well, but we can hear every word, so I
Right,
can.
okay, that's fine then. So, so yeah, it was very interesting, because the reason that I asked Jade to do a session for me was because I've been struggling a bit with a bit of overwhelm, and um, what I'd realised is that I think we're probably, all of us can relate to the fact that at the moment there are so many things that are coming to the surface. Life is is a bit of a struggle at times, because of the fact that in whatever way it's showing up for us, we're really being shown our core wounds. We're really being shown the things of us that we need to let go of. And it becomes really intense until we're taking notice of it. And I'd really noticed that I've always had a tendency to overthink. So my brain is, everything I do is like from the head upwards, and my body gets sort of dragged along behind for the ride, but I'm not really connected very well with my body. Unless I'm actually doing a session, then I'm really connected with the energy work. But outside of that, I've always been a little bit sort of not. It's not been part of my process as much as it should have been. And I think I've got so much caught in my head. And I I said to Jade, would we be able to do a breathwork session, because I really felt like I needed to come into my body to release some of this. It was starting to feel like my head was so full and on permanent chatter. And so that was last Wednesday. I think it was last Thursday we had the session, and we set some intentions about a few things that I wanted to look at. And what was so fascinating was that through that process, there was such a release um, of emotion. It was, but it wasn't like I was holding on to the what and the why. I was able to connect to parts of my body that I knew needed nurturing and needed supporting, but it was in a very energetic and objective way. So it's like being immersed in a process, but also observing it at the same time. And it was so powerful. And by the end of it, and I tend to sort of jump into everything with both feet anyway, so it was very, very intense, to the point where everything was so contracted. I could feel everything everywhere, but it was as if my cells were releasing so much information and so much trauma that has been held onto, that have been shoved down over the years. And so it's my perception that we get to a point with trauma where we can cope with it for so long, and then it gets to the point where we are over full, and then it starts to have an impact on our mental health, on our the way that we are showing up in the world. And so I was seeing that was happening with me. And I know that there's been quite a lot of trauma that, although on a conscious level I dealt with, I hadn't dealt with it from a physical level. And this is what I was looking at, was how can I work with the physical to release the trauma, release the anxiety, whatever it was that was holding on to on a cellular level. And
Mm.
through that process, I could feel that happening. And afterwards, the shift and the relief after the process was profound. Like something I wanted to hold on to that feeling forever, because it felt such a blissful state to be in, where it was suddenly this like relief of not having that need and that pull and that desire to be guided by those parts of ourselves that are pulling us in a certain direction. Those unhealthy patterns had just stopped. And
Mm.
that was a week ago, and they haven't come back, which has been really interesting. So it certainly released it on a permanent level. And now, of course, we know that things come up in layers, so I'm sure that other things will start to show themselves. But it was a very big shift. So I I was blown away by the how effective it was.
Mm. And it really does increase our tolerance of energy as well within our system, which is also emotion. So that's when that resilience comes into it, and then we start being okay with experiencing our emotions. And as you said there, it's like it might sound like, oh, I'm activating even more anxiety or even more fear. That's why I'm contracting, but it's not, because when you're feeling fear and anxiety, your breath actually is shallow, and it actually becomes even really fast, so you're holding it. But this conscious connected way of breathing that I'm trained in, I've done with Sandra, my clients, it's very deep and rhythmic. There's no pause in between, but it's really deep into the diaphragm, into the lungs, into the chest, and it's back around. So that is happening on that level when your breath is actually deepening even more. So it's not the same kind of response. It's actually just this energy and these emotions that are stored within us coming up to the surface for the energy to be released. And it took me a while to even get my head around it, like what was going on. And that's why when I started doing breath work, I didn't even consciously need to understand. I was just doing it, and I was like, well, I know there's so much going on right now that's amazing and things are shifting, so I'm just going to go along with it. And that's what I love about doing breath work, is you get to go on that journey of rather than being told what's happening or what to do, you're experiencing that so fully. And then it's your intuition to go, oh, that was that means that's what I felt there. Okay, so moving forward, this is what I can do. It's because it's your mind, it's your body that's going through the process. And so when you do have a good guide, so what I do is I can intuitively sense what's going on with you and tune into your energy and guide you with that process. But it's all starting with you. I'm not like putting anything we're like on you or like making anything happen. It's purely you and your breath. And so the more that we can let go in the breath work, and that's why when we're inhaling, it's that connection, but the exhale is that clearing. And if no one's tapped into that yet, then like that's the biggest thing to take away from even today. It's when you breathe in, you're breathing in life, you're breathing in that connection, you're breathing in life force energy, not just air and oxygen, which is so healing. And with the exhale, you get to be constantly just relaxing, clearing, and being able just to not build up into those states of contraction or fear or all those states. So it's a wonderful thing to do even outside of a session, just to consciously breathe deeply.
Yeah, it's been interesting, because I as Jade knows, because she knows me well enough to know, and probably some other people probably will know this as well, I can get quite hyper at times when I get a bit overexcited because I've got a new idea or something coming in. And poor Steve gets the end of that, where I'm talking at him for hours at a time. And so I said to him, just when you feel that I'm doing that, just say breathe. And what I've been doing is we've been having this, so rather than having to have those conversations around, can you just back off because you're doing my head in, it's actually enabled him to be able to just say, just breathe. And so I've been able to just bring my consciousness back into that space and just doing that same conscious breath. And I felt my energy come back into my body and out of my head, because I think all of us have parts of ourselves which are the more dominant, and some of us are more focused in our bodies, some of us are more in our heads. It just depends on how we naturally are. And if you are somebody that's in your head a lot, it's so powerful to bring you back in so that you can allow that energy to be more balanced. Because and especially when we become more in that sort of fight or flight space, and we go into that sympathetic nervous system, we tend to be more in our heads trying to figure things out. And we have those racing thoughts, and we just want that. Or even just a busy day where we just have a lot going on, and you just want to have that moment to just take stock and come back into our bodies. And for me, for just doing that for a couple of minutes enables me to come back into a more of a homeostasis sort of space of being much more in the parasympathetic nervous system, and therefore more in control of my mind and therefore my thoughts. And so they're coming from a more balanced space in a way that's more fluid and more easy to navigate, and for other people around me to navigate as well. So it's a really good tool for just keeping you grounded in the moment rather than being pulled off and distracted. And we've all got different parts of our lives that create that, whether that's our kids or our jobs or our partners, whatever, or work, whatever those things are. But there are always those triggers that pull us out into that responding and reacting from those like patterned ways that we do that. But that breath and giving ourselves the space to do that, I've noticed it's really helping me to come back into more balance, to be able to respond with more awareness.
Mm. Yeah, no, it really does kind of just reverse that survival
Yeah.
response that we're living by. And yeah, no, I found it so helpful in my practice. It's actually the biggest thing that people say after a session. I've never had such a clear, calm mind. It's the most thing that people are like, how has that happened? And yeah, it really is because our breath, you're kind of bypassing that conscious mind, and obviously you're tapping into your body and putting into that relaxed state, but you really are accessing even parts of your mind that's not your chatter mind as well, as we know. And that's when it can be a real spiritual experience as well, because that's in that space where you can get downloads, you can get guidance. Yeah, I've had some just incredible experiences. And I think it's really helped to deepen my intuition and how I show up for others and help others. And I was saying to you this morning, wasn't I, that how it's just incredible how I see people start to do their own energy work, and you were helping me with that today when my hands started lifting, and you were encouraging that same my clients, we start to do our own kind of energy work, and our mind tries to get in the way. That's what happened this morning. I was like, why are my hands like rising? What are they doing? And you were just like, just allow it to happen. But our mind just wants to get involved. So if we're sitting here consciously moving, that's when we stop these processes. That's why breath work, when we drop back and let go, it's like all these things that we naturally can tap into, we can do in those spaces. So I know from me, from that session this morning with you, I'm gonna allow that more, even consciously, now that I've had that awareness.
Yeah. And it's just bit by bit bringing that conscious awareness to those parts that are showing up in these sessions, and doing this work. It naturally enables you to do parts work when you're in the process with breath work, because you can start to talk to those parts of yourselves that have been disconnected from. And quite often there are parts of our bodies that have been neglected or have had trauma, or whatever the situation is, but they're holding that information, and we can start to build that dialogue with those parts of our body to reconcile and bring them back into alignment. So it's not just about breathing and just allowing that. There's also the work that you can do within the breath work to really connect with those parts of ourselves we've disconnected from and shut down.
And it is if you've not got that relationship with yourself and your mind, that's why having someone there with you, so before a session, and you can have that conversation about like, what do I want to tap into, it's really useful. And that's why a lot of the time the base work of what we're doing is, first of all, just creating that safety within our body, just feeling safe to drop into our own body and allow anything to kind of arise naturally. And it can be a process, can't it? Or being able to then tap into, okay, so this is something that's coming through, a memory. Okay, let me process this. Let me give myself that missing experience that I needed back then for it not to go into that trauma response. And but it's super powerful when we can start doing that, and accessing those parts of our subconscious ourselves. Like, I know I wouldn't have been able to do that years ago at the start of this journey, but now, because I've had that experience, I can now tap into that and have that awareness of what's coming through, even through my mind, and reprogram those things. So
Well, as
Yeah.
with all of these things, it's a journey, isn't it? It's you take those first steps and it starts to unfold and you start to get more information and more feedback from your body, the more safer, um, the more it feels safe with the process, the more information it's going to give you, because it's starting to relax with you, and knowing that what you're going to do with that information and how you're going to work, and the fact that it starts to feel comfortable with showing itself to you, knowing that it's supported by the process. And so it is like anything else, the more that you do it, the more information and the more profound the shifts are going to be. So
Mm.
um
It is
yeah,
as well. It's like tapping into your core self, isn't it?
mm,
That's enables. I always say that, like, in breath work, you start to recognize the difference between your the ego, the subconscious beliefs, the conditioning, and actually the truth of who you are. And
yeah,
you can kind of hear those two voices. And then once you access to that your core self, it's so much easier to do that process of going, oh yeah, I'm recognizing that that's not actually me, and I can work with that. It's not actually me, and so
mm,
it's not going to control me.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, exactly. It's a beautiful tool for alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so there's so many different types of breath work as well.
Mm.
That's the biggest, when I start talking about breath work, people have maybe one image in their mind of what breath work is. And I always forget. I'm like, just because I know and understand the type of breath work I do, I forget that people's idea of breathwork might be Wim Hof. It might be one type of way, and then straight away they sort of say, "Oh no, that's not for me. I tried that once and didn't like it." But there are so many different types of breathwork that we can do. Holotropic is, I think I said that, holotropic is similar to Wim Hof, but I'm trained in rebirthing, so it's conscious connected breathing, which is just that. It's the way we came into this world breathing. So it's super simple as that. It's fully into the diaphragm, into lungs, into the chest, and it doesn't stop. We're not holding at any point. It's just that rhythmic, beautiful way. If you notice a child, how they breathe. But also there is tons of different breathwork practices that we can do, as you probably know, like alternating nostril breathing, kundalini breathing, box breathing, extending the exhale to help us relax and sleep. We can do breath of fire to energize ourselves. Yeah, there is so much different type of breath work, and that's why, should I talk about our program a little bit?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's interesting because we were talking
yeah,
about this
tap
this
into
week.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, that we were talking about the Kundalini breath that we were talking about this morning, and so our program is starting with the root chakra. So yeah, so how will that work then when we're working with that?
Yeah, so Kundalini breath, there's many different types of way you're doing it, but Kundalini brings your body into it as well. So you're moving in the same way with your breath. So, you'll be breathing in, breathing out, and you're using your spine, you're using your hips. And you can work all the way up the body with different Kundalini movements. You can use the arms, but just doing that one with the spinal movement, and then Kundalini as well. It's a lot of hold. So you be once you do the spinal breathe in, you then can take a deep breath in and hold, and you kind of clench your pelvic floor, and you pull, like you say, pull everything up, and that's sending the energy from the root all the way up. And then you can kind of hold it here, especially focus into your third eye. And yeah, it's a really fun practice. But again, if you're not used to breath work, as you can imagine, it's kind of like complicated, and things can kind of, you have to use your mind a bit more, your head, to kind of remember the steps. So that's why we get to use these practices to kind of experience different things. But really, just conscious connected breathing, just laying down and breathing the natural way, is just super recommended for me, for everything. And learning to breathe in and out of your nose, not your mouth. And then we get to use all these wonderful practices to experiment. And if we're doing the chakras like we're going to be, then you can access a certain chakra with a certain type of breath work. You can use it to energize yourself or help you relax. So we get to use all these practices depending on what the intention is, what our aim
Mm.
is, what we're after. Yeah.
Yes, and so for those of you that don't know about our program, we're starting it next Wednesday in Westmoreland. It's an in-person program. It's 8 weeks. It's every Wednesday between 7 and 9 for 8 weeks, and we're going to be working through each of the chakras. And then on the last one, on week 8, we're going to be working with the Soul Star and the Earth Star to connect you to your mission, your purpose, and then anchor that down into the crystalline grid, into the earth star. And then really, where we'd have gone through, we've really upgraded ourselves through that whole process. It's then anchoring that in, so we're anchoring more light into the grid. And it's a combination of, well, we know that when our chakra system is aligned, we are aligned. It's so the more that we can bring those energy centers into alignment, the more that we are clearing out our old patterning, our old programs. And it's not just doing it from a mental level in terms of our patterns. We're clearing that from our subconscious, but we're also working with the physical parts of our body. So each chakra is connected to a physical part of our body. So it can help with disease. It can help with everything of this human experience. We can work on through the chakra system.
There's like
Uh,
hormones, organs,
yeah, yeah.
even the color. We've been working with the frequency of like color as well.
Color, foods, all sorts of different elements. So the program is going to be a different chakra each week. It'll be a combination of breath work, light codes, journaling, and so we're going to be really, so as Jade is doing the breath work, it's a smallish group. We've got a few spaces left, but we're not going to have beyond a certain number. And once Jade's doing the breath work, I'm going to be working on everybody individually, helping them to clear what they're ready to release. And then we're bringing in the higher frequency codes to anchor those in. And there'll be time for you to then journal after the process. There'll be an hour's worth of actual physical process. We'll be talking for the first half an hour. Then we've got an hour of process, and then half an hour at the end of journaling, and then just talking about our experience. So by the end of the program, you should have really aligned and cleared a lot of stuff that's been keeping you out of synchronicity with yourself, so that you can really align and step into a fuller version, a more authentic version of yourself. So if anybody's interested in that, then just let us know, because it starts next Wednesday. So.
Yeah, and when I was talking about breathwork practices, we're going to just do one for like 5 minutes, but really the main breath is the laying down, conscious connected breathing. And as we've even experienced ourselves, like in that space of conscious connected breathing, you really start to feel the energy. Like this morning when you were bringing in the codes, I could feel the energy of that and where that was going. And yeah, it's super, super powerful, because we struggle to access those extra senses, don't we, that we actually do have and go into our energy field. So it's such a powerful combination.
It does open, breath work opens up a lot, because the first time I did any breath work was probably about 5 years ago, when I had a Merkaba activation. And as part of the process, there was breath work involved. And I didn't realize, but I was having a huge amount of physical experience, but I didn't realize at the time it was the breath work that was creating that. And since then, that's when lots of other things started to activate within me, and my energetic sensitivities started to really amplify. Was because of the breath work in the first place, connecting me to how that felt in my body. So that's part of what I do when I'm working with the codes, is I feel it. So when I was working with Jade this morning, what the energy of what's coming through, I feel it in my body. So whatever the energy is that I'm clearing in somebody else, I'm feeling it in me. So I've become, that sensitivity in me has opened up the ability to actually connect in with the person I'm working with. So it starts to help you really feel on an energetic level what's going on, whether it's with your own physical body, or if you're working as an energy healer, or any other way where you're connecting with someone. It helps you to connect in with their energy. So it must be much more experiential, which is amazing. So Jade, you're going to take us through a bit of a breathwork practice then.
Yes, yeah, I'll do a little 5 minutes. And again, this practice is just going to be connecting you to your breath. And this whole idea of what we're doing in our programs is all about empowerment. So we feel empowered when we feel like we have a choice, and we have our own resources to fuel us in life. And that's what the breath really is for you. So already starting to notice in your life, if you're holding your breath, if your breath is tense, and we're going to just go into that practice and see what our breath is doing. And then we're just going to bring some expansion into that breath. So yeah, so if you're all happy to, I invite you just to land into your space and just close your eyes if you feel comfortable to. And so I just invite you to drop into your chair. Drop into where you're seated, your back against the chair, and your bum against the chair, and even your legs. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your hands in your lap. And even in this space, maybe you might notice that you don't feel very grounded. Maybe feel up in your head. Maybe feel your head is busy. So the invitation is just while you're sitting in this space in your chair, is let's just invite in that grounded feeling. So dropping into your body with your feet on the ground, just visualize roots coming from the soles of your feet. And you can even use your body to kind of push your feet into the ground, as if you're encouraging those roots to go down into the layers of your home or work, wherever you are, into the soil, going all the way into the ground until you feel you're becoming more heavier in your body. And then feel your roots anchor around your earth star. And maybe you can see a color, you can sense a color that this crystal is, that this earth star is. And just feel your body becoming heavier. Feel more weighted in your body, more weighted in the chair. And then you can just visualize a bright white light or golden light coming from the top of your head, from your crown. And start to invite that light to come through your crown, and even start to invite that through with your inhale now into your body. And just feel that connection, feel that centering. And in this space, just start to notice now what your breath is doing without trying to change it. And this is that practice of them bringing that acceptance and compassion towards where we are right now without needing to control or change it at all. And just noticing that love and curiosity. And I invite you to place one hand on your chest and one on your belly, because this will help you to determine and kind of feel where your breath is moving in and out of your body. And start to collect that data. So as you're inhaling, as you're exhaling, are you breathing in and out of your nose or out of your mouth? What parts of your body are rising and falling? So where do you feel your hands lifting and falling back down? And when you have an idea of what your breath is doing, just know that it's normal if you're breathing more up in your chest. Because if we've been busy and we've been unconscious to our breath, it tends to be quite shallow, especially if we haven't done any breathwork training. And so wherever you do notice that breath, maybe it is in your chest, maybe it is in your lungs, and then you should feel your rib cage moving, or maybe it is in your belly and you feel the hand on your belly rising and falling. But wherever the breath is, now I invite you to take a deep inhale, again breathing in that light and bring it into that space where you feel that breath. So if it's in your chest, start to breathe in more light, and know that as you're breathing in not just oxygen and air, but you're breathing in life force energy. You're bringing that energy into your being. Start to bring that into where you feel your breath, if it's in your chest, and allow that breath to expand, allow that light to expand in the area. And with every breath, allow your breath to deepen. Start to bring that air, that life force energy down your body with your breath. And then the only invitation with the exhale is to relax even more. So any tension, and maybe you notice that within your posture, maybe you notice your shoulders, maybe you notice your breathe, sticking your stomach in. So with every exhale, start to loosen and relax and soften your body, and maybe even adjust your posture just a little bit. Open up some more space to breathe. And so with that breath, inviting it down till you can feel even the hand on your belly slightly rising and falling. And if not, that's okay. Just knowing that you bring in that resonance and that visualization of breathing in that light, bringing it down to your belly, will already be doing amazing work with that. No, it's always a process. So start to bring that breath into the belly, feeling that hand on the belly rise, and then bringing that breath up to the lungs so you feel your rib cage expand, and then up to the chest. Now, this is that conscious connected way of breathing we're going to start to invite in, just so you can have a quick experience of this. So first of all, breathe in straight away into the belly, bring it up into the lungs, and then bring it up into the chest, and then just let the breath fall out. And maybe even here you want to have a parted mouth, and let the breath fall out of a parted mouth to release and relax even more. So breathing in, bringing it into the belly, allowing the breath rise up to the lungs, expanding the rib cage, and bringing it up into the chest, up into the heart. And then with the exhale, just allowing all of that air, and also any energy that you want to be clearing and releasing, anything that you want to let go of, to release with the exhale. Breathing in deeply, bringing it into the belly, bringing it up into the lungs and into the chest. And then the breath should probably, if you're breathing in this conscious connected way, be leaving the chest first, and it leaves the lungs, it leaves the belly last. So breathing into the belly, bring it into lungs, into the chest. And as you exhale, the breath leaves the chest, it leaves the lungs, it leaves the belly last. Breathing into the belly, bringing it into the lungs, bringing it into the chest. Now, as you exhale, beautifully allow anything just to release and just to let go. Let go of any contraction, any tension. Like maybe you start to notice as you're breathing. And that's the beautiful thing, when we start to breathe in this conscious connected way, that's when you can start to notice, oh, maybe I am kind of tensing in this area. Maybe I am holding my breath a little bit here. And start to invite in that expansion. So breathing in even deeper with your inhale through the nose. Bringing it all the way up your body, and with the exhale, you could even do a sigh out now. So just sighing through the mouth. So again, being okay with hearing the sound of your own voice. So breathing in deeply into the belly. And with your exhale, just sigh out. And we're going to do 2 more of those. Breathing in into the belly if you can. And sigh out with the exhale. Allowing any more relaxation, any more even opening to happen within your body. Maybe opening the heart with this next one. So breathing in into the heart, and with the exhale, sigh out and just drop into your heart even more. And then just notice, what is your breath doing now? Does it feel a bit more deeper? Does it feel more expansive? Drop back into your body to where you're sitting. Drop back into the feeling of your hands. Maybe they're pressed against your heart and then your belly. To feel your hands, and even you can rub those areas. It's rubbing your heart, rubbing your belly. And just dropping back into your body, into your space. And you can even wriggle in your chair. Press your feet firmly against the floor even more. And then whenever you are ready, you can just come back into the room and open your eyes. I know that was a really, really short practice, but hopefully you might have noticed more expansion with the breath. And, it's interesting. A lot of people, when I bring in this way of breathing, they didn't realize that we breathe into the belly and then into the lungs, into the chest. It's like a simple way of breathing that we actually forget. We think we breathe up here and then maybe it goes down, but actually we breathe into the belly and we bring it up into lungs and into the chest. And it's that real full, expansive breath. Okay.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I find it, I go quite deep quite quickly. But yeah, it's great. So maybe this is a good opportunity for us to open up now to see if anybody would like to share or has any questions. So is there anything that anybody would like to ask or to comment on, or just share about their experience?
I felt very sleepy actually, and a bit cold, but nice.
Okay.
Yeah, that tends to happen if you know, especially if we're in that kind of busy sympathetic nervous system, that you know, we actually feel more heat. And so when we start to relax, we start to feel colder. And that's why, you know, if you ever do a breathwork session, hopefully someone will always give you a blanket on hand, because your temperature can really fluctuate in those spaces. So it's good that you actually kind of went to that place quite quickly in that short amount of time. So that's good.
I'm wearing a jumper and a
Yeah.
shirt, but it was nice. Thank you.
Okay, and this is the space as well. If anyone has any questions, you know, we've kind of seen, like, at the end of these sessions, we do dive into things with the particular person when they have any questions or need any guidance. So it's really lovely time for that.
Yeah. So, Angela, I saw that you wanted to say something. So,
yes, thank you, Jade, for that. That was really good, and I'm finding that I like being reminded to breathe, because I know I breathe really badly and I shallow breathe, and I've got lots of problems with breathing. When you just took us through that deep breathing, is it quite normal to feel lightheaded? Because I felt lightheaded.
Yeah, so we can feel lightheaded when our breath is contracted. So when we're breathing up in our chest more, when we start to bring that breath down and deepen in it, that's when we can feel quite lightheaded. So it's just a sign of, like you said, your breath is probably more contracted and more up here. So that does fade. You don't get lightheaded all the time the more that you start to deepen that breath, but that's very normal at the start. Yeah.
Okay,
And it's okay. It's also being okay with that. You know, that's what I love about that. It's that sometimes we're so fearful of what our body's doing or sensations that we feel. And that's when we go into these spaces of breath work, we can just start being okay with these new experiences and you know, what we're feeling.
Such a good point, because we're always trying to not what our bodies are doing, because society have made us think it's weird to feel that feeling, or stiff upper lip and carry on and be busy. And just everyone's got an opinion about it, and then we stop listening to our bodies, which is when the ailments start and everything. But we just come back to basics, then just feel more grounded and aligned and balanced, make better decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the thing to notice, or from my experience of breath work, which obviously is much more limited than Jade's, but that it can make your body feel very different to anything you've experienced before. And it's okay, it's perfectly safe, but it can feel a bit overwhelming and quite scary, because it can feel very intense when your body starts to feel and starts to contract. Because obviously that was just a couple of minutes that Jade just did. But if you're doing that as a full breathwork session, it can be really quite intense from a physical perspective, and from feeling a little bit like the energy in your head it can feel quite lightheaded, but it's okay. It's about knowing that you're safe, that nothing's going to happen. It's perfectly okay to feel like that. And actually what you're doing is releasing, and afterwards you will feel so much better. But during it can be a little bit scary. When the intensity really builds, it can feel a bit scary. But it's about just sort of self-soothing with that, and just knowing it's okay to have those experiences.
That's what I always just say. It's like going up a mountain. So you're going to be going up that mountain, and you're probably going to reach a bit of a peak where things feel a bit intense. But that's the process. It is that process of things coming up to the surface to then allow that release. And you start to feel safer and safer with that process and that experience. And really, that's the thing. The breathwork is the most intense at the start of when you're doing it. If you do it every single week for like a year like I have, it gets less and less intense, because you think you've got less contraction to be releasing, really. Yeah.
I definitely feel recently more pulled towards doing some breath work, because I've got long COVID at the moment, and I didn't realize that it can change your breathing pattern. So as well as me really shallow breathing a lot, and I was relating to what you said, Sandra, about all in your thoughts, and then your physical body just sort of follows. And and I've been on high alert for a long time. So I've had a lot of cortisol flooding through my body. And when you took us through that, Jade, it almost feels a bit alien to me when I start to deep breathe. I almost go, I don't know how to do that. And I just have to calm down and be in the moment and just allow, because my subconscious will know how to do that. But consciously, I'm thinking, I'm not used to breathing deeply. And it takes me a while to kind of get into that space. But when I'm into that space, it feels so calming and so lovely and so good for my physical body. It's just a lovely space to be in. And I know we can't do that going about our busy day, but I just got a feeling that I really need to learn how to breathe properly again and to get my breathing pattern much better, because then I'll just it could possibly heal with everything that I'm stuck with at the moment. But I'm really being drawn to breath work. So if I could possibly get your details, Jade, or that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know with you know, COVID, it can have those effects with our respiratory system, and there is some healing to be done there. But like you said there, it's really good that you then recognize, once you get past that fear of like, oh God, I'm breathing, how do I breathe, that actually really the breath will start to breathe you. And you can imagine in a longer session, the breath really does breathe you. And so you're just then actually witnessing, and in that space of witnessing your breath breathing so deeply, you can then access all wonderful, beautiful parts of yourself. And yeah, no, it's one of those things. It's so interesting how therapy is such a normal thing, but breathwork is not. But actually, it's the most physical thing to do with our health, that if we actually can start to breathe properly, I mean, I could list the physical benefits on a huge scale, and you know, with our mind and our spiritual aspect, whereas, you know, therapy can just be the mental aspect. Because I have a lot of clients that just have CBT and therapy, and they come to me because they haven't quite had the healing that they needed. And that's why the breathwork seems to be that thing that's been missing with a lot of people. It's really incredible.
I think you're right. I think therapy definitely has its place, but I think breathing is the most fundamental, essential, simple thing that
Simple resource.
yeah, absolutely. And it helps, like you say, not just physically, it does help you mentally, helps your thoughts, it helps everything calm down. So I'm definitely veering towards that just to help me recover.
Yeah, and I do have people that come for breathwork that can't breathe very well, or not breathe through their nose at all as well. And it's an interesting thing, because there's so many different things we do before a session to actually start to get this being able to breathe through our nose, because there's so much congestion there. And it's one of those things, once we start to breathe fully through our nose, because we're creating that nitric oxide, it starts to actually clear our airways. But then we get in the habit of just breathing through our mouth because it's too hard breathing through our nose, and then we stay that way. So we have to start reverse that and go through that difficult time of like, oh, it's actually, I'm trying to breathe through my nose and it's difficult, but you do get through that other end. Definitely. You know, the breath is so healing to your body.
So Angela, shall I pass Jade's details on to you to give you to send you her contact details?
Yes, please. That'd be great. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so it's I think the interesting thing is that when you're, from the way that I've perceived it, is that whatever it is that we're dealing with in our minds, all of the therapies that you do with your mind, you can actually deal with things on a conscious level. But if you're unconscious, your subconscious is holding on your cellular level. Everything is being held in our physical body. Our bodies remember everything, every trauma, every experience, and we hold on to that. So even if consciously we've dealt with it, our body hasn't necessarily let go of it. And so the breath work, it almost enables our bodies to catch up, so we become more aligned. And because how often do we have those situations like, I know I should be doing this differently, I know better than this, but I can't actually, but I'm still repeating these patterns, it's still coming in. Why is that? And I truly believe it's because we're still holding on to it on a cellular level. And once we start to release it from the body, then everything starts to align better, and we shift our frequency, and then everything changes. It's why I think, I mean, therapy's definitely got its place from a cognitive perspective, but without marrying the two together, it's just not as effective and just takes much longer. So, Catherine, you wanted to ask something as well. So,
I noticed, especially maybe the last month or so, a couple of weeks, each time I start to breathe deeply or being aware of my breathing, my body starts moving, and not just the hands, it's the whole body. So lots of shaking and lots of, and the whole body is moving. So I don't know, I wanted to ask you, maybe Sandra, is it more like language, or is it just, taking that out of my body, or is it linked to the breath, or what do you think?
I think it could. I think it could be a number of things, because when you're releasing with the breath, you are naturally releasing through the body. So it can create movement in the body as you're releasing. But because you're naturally drawn to sort of light language and energy anyway, so I know that if I'm working myself and it's just me, I feel myself moving, and I allow it to move all through my physical body. It feels very natural to me to allow things to move through physically. So it may well be that using the breath just triggers that response in you, and your body innately knows what to do. So it's following, it's just trusting and knowing that the breath is bringing you into your body, and your body is innately knowing how to move to enable that energy to move through you. So I think it's just allowing the process rather than worrying too much or overthinking what it might be. Just know that this is my body's way of responding and releasing, and just trusting that, because I know for me, when I've had that real intensity of energy, I have to move my body because I feel it getting stuck in certain places, and I've had energy feeling it so intensely that I've had to breathe. I've had to use my breath because I've found it hard to breathe because of the intensity of the energy. So I think sometimes energy can come up and actually, in a way, force you to use your breath in order to cope with the intensity of the energy. So it's very interlinked. So people find it in different ways. I found the breath through the energy, and Jade's found the energy through the breath. So I think you can find it and come across it in different ways. And it may be for you, Catherine, that you're finding that just having the breathing is enabling you to connect with your energy on a deeper level. And so it's just allow it to just be what it wants to be. And just trust that whatever your body needs in that moment is what it's going to experience, as long as your mind steps out the way and just allows.
Yeah.
That's why it helps when you have someone with you as well. Like, there's so many times I see people, there's movement that wants to happen, but they stop the process. So when you have someone go, no, it's safe, it's okay. And there is also so many different types of movement that your body could be doing. Sometimes I see it's trauma release, so it's literally shaking. So your body is just shaking, especially your legs, and you don't actually have much control over that. Sometimes it's just a jolt. Sometimes, with me, like, it just feels like you want to move with the energy. Yeah, sometimes you feel it in like a certain point of your body. Anger release is another thing that we do in breath work. Like, if you feel this intense energy and you feel that sensation, and maybe it's even a conscious thing of anger and frustration, we actually punch the side of the bed or the mat, wherever you're laying, and it helps to release that energy even more. So that's the thing with breath work. When I was trained in it, it was a really traditional way of rebirthing breath work, where you're not really encouraged to move. But again, I don't think that is it's the way to do it. The movement actually really helps with the process, and again, it's trust in your body and what your body wants to do and how it wants to heal and release.
I think also it's about the intention as to what you want to experience from it, because if you want to really go deep within, and as soon as you start to go deep, your body starts to take over, it may be that that's a comfortable place for you to be, and it's not allowing you to go on those deeper levels. So I think it is all about the intention that you're using. So, for example, I know that naturally I would want to move, but the process I did with Jade last week, there was a little bit of movement, but actually I was mostly quite still, apart from when it was the automatic responses of my body, because I think for me, it's a little bit of it's a comfort zone for me to be able to move and not go within, and so you don't get the intensity of the build up on a deeper level. So if you want to breathe, to do the breath, to take you into your energy and feel that that's one thing, but going into the breath and feeling it on a much deeper level to really allow more deeply held layers to come up, it's probably better to really go with the trying to be more focused on your breath and just follow the process. As Jade said, it is a process of allowing it to build, because when I was first doing it, I was thinking, wow, what's going to happen? And there was a part of me that was going, well, I'm only breathing quite gently, so how is this going to actually build to this level? But my goodness, by me just going with it and sticking with it, the intensity built to such an incredible level. But when you first start to do it, it feels quite gentle, but it builds to such a crescendo. So I think it's the intention behind what you want to experience from that breathing, when you're in that moment, and what you want to get. So,
So
and
how long did you do the breathing for with Jade?
oh, it was about an hour, I think, wasn't it? I think it took me through the process to get there, first of all, just to connect to the breath, but it was about an hour altogether. It was quite a long process. It was very intense. And it took me the rest of the day to get over it. It was quite just in an amazing way, because it wasn't like I felt exhausted afterwards. I felt just in such a beautiful space, but I didn't want to step back into something, to let go of that emotion. I wanted to be able to be present with that feeling, to really embody it, and to really yeah, just be present with it, because I think we do these things and then we go straight back into life. And in order to really get the most of it, I think it's really good to have that space where you can really sit with it as to what's come up. And which is why when we're doing the sessions we're doing, we're having that space to journal, to give you that chance to just sit with it and see what's come up for you, and what feelings and what emotions, so you can hold. And I know you're probably going to have to get in your car and drive home, but at least you've got something that's giving you the opportunity to bring through those thoughts, so that you can go and sit with them afterwards and allow that to keep on coming up and keep going back to that space. Because once you've been in a space, you can reconnect back to it again, because we do remember. And even if we don't have the full experience, we are able to tap into it. So if we've had that experience, like the one with Jade, or after the sessions that we're going to be doing together, even if you have to go home, you can then go back into that experience and start to connect back into what that feeling wanted to show you and tell you, so you can expand more on it by just going back into it again, energetically.
Yeah, so even, yeah, Catherine, with the movement, what do you intuitively feel like the movement is? Do you feel like it's like an uncontrollable thing, something you should move with, or do you feel like it's a distraction? Sometimes our body will want to move when we're distracting ourselves, we don't want to go deep. So it's all different.
No, I think it's really part of the process. So I can stop it if I want. It's not something, it's not sometimes you have your eye moving and you can't do anything, but it's not like that. I can control it, so I don't have to do it, but it's something that my body wants to do. So and I think it's a lot of release all the time. It's a lot of a lot of release more than anything. So that's why I let it be. But I can stop it as well, and maybe that's quite interesting to see. If I stay still, also what else will come, or maybe first the release and then go in more and see what happens. So this breathing you just gave us a feeling of for 5 minutes. We can do it for as long as we want, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that conscious connected way of breathing, if you lay down and done it for an hour and you're not experiencing it, probably you want a bit of guidance with you in that. But yeah, no, it's the way that we should be trying to connect to throughout the day. Breathing in and training those muscles, expanding our lungs, training the diaphragm. Yeah.
And as with everything, our core message is always find your own way.
Yeah.
Because there's everybody is different, and we all resonate with slightly different things and different ways of doing things. And what works for some people love the Wim Hof breathing, and other people find it actually quite intense and intimidating. And the breath work that Jade does, the people that like Wim Hof probably would find that too gentle. So it just depends on what's right for you, and always trusting that your body knows. And so using your own intuition to find what works for you, and always coming back to yourself. and not and never feeling like what somebody tells you is the only way. It's always about what feels right and what resonates with you, and trusting that the intuition that you're getting is coming from you. And that's the most important thing to follow.
Dee, did you have a question?
I just wanted to add about the movement thing. So part of my culture of spirituality, we are supposed to meditate even throughout the day when we're busy doing whatever we're doing, but to keep a mantra in our minds so that we can always just stay calm and keep breathing. So I sometimes find when I'm meditating, I'm just sat on the floor and I kind of spin a little bit. And then at first I was like, this is a bit strange, when my mind's talking to myself and saying that's a bit strange. And then I just kind of go with it. And that's just how I feel comfortable. And I try not to be scared of it because I feel good. So I let the movement sort of happen. So that's normally what I do, and start sort of spinning a little bit. And I think Catherine was saying, how long do you do it for? I think you just kind of know, don't you? Or typically the postman will ring the doorbell or an ambulance will go past and it just breaks your concentration. That's life, isn't it?
So do your body's kind of like doing a circular motion when you meditate?
Yeah, so I just do it. So I think it normally goes like an anti-clockwise, kind of like I just kind of sit there and I just feel really peaceful, and I'm just in my space and the energy field.
Yeah.
I have the same thing. As soon as I'm connecting, whenever I connect, my body starts to move, and it's like as soon as I start to sort of connecting with the higher frequencies, I start to notice that my body starts to spin. So I think it is an energy that is, you're allowing your body to just go with the resonance of that energy, because I find exactly the same thing happens.
And I think because I've done level 1, 2, 3 Reiki, whether that's made a difference as well, the opening up and stuff. So that's just
probably accessing that energy.
Yeah. So if anyone else was in the room with me, they'd say, "What are you doing, you weirdo?" But I know I'm okay, and we're all different, and if we're connecting and it feels good, then
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any more questions before we end the session for today? Angela, yes. Yeah.
Hello, sorry, just one question because I can see the time. With if you have a tight diaphragm, can the breath work teach you and help you with that diaphragm? Because I had a really great experience. I went to see a cranial osteopath for a bad neck, but she worked on my diaphragm. She said, you've got a really tight diaphragm. And she did something so subtle, I could hardly feel it. And when I left, I could breathe so much more deeply. And I was so excited because I'd obviously been stuck in a breathing pattern that was rather shallow. And just to be able to breathe more deeply was just amazing. And of course, I probably got back into my patterns again. But can breathwork help if we have a tight diaphragm?
Yeah, definitely. Think of it, it's just that tight muscle. And also when we have tightness, especially in our diaphragm, it is a reflection of even like emotional states that we can be in, and we build that tightness within. And when we're breathing up in our chest, we tend to be tensing our belly and our diaphragm because we're not expanding, because we have to soften to expand. So when we start breathing, we start bringing that breath down and get that diaphragm moving and softening. And also it's that energy. When we're breathing in, we are breathing in that energy that helps to open and soften that area, because it's also on an energetic level. It's not even just like a physical muscle, it's like an energetic level to that too. So definitely. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Sandra, does that make sense with the energy?
Yeah, I think and I think we hold so much there. I mean, if you think about, that's where our solar plexus is and our identity. And so whenever we've got anything that we're fearful of, anything that's we always get that contraction there. And that's and so it's if we can certainly use the breath to release that, and then energetically things shift as a result of it. So it's really important, because that keeps us contracted in so many ways. So once we start to really breathe into the diaphragm and actually allow that sense of identity to actually start to unfold from that space, it can create huge shifts. So I would definitely work with that to expand that energy. That's
why even like ab work, they say it's not very good for your breathing. It starts to create even more tension and tightness down here. So we want to be allowing our bellies to be kind of sticking out and relaxed and soft as much as we can.
Okay, so it's been lovely talking to you all about this, and I hope you've really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you so much, Jade, for all of your wonderful, invaluable information and for that little breathwork demonstration. And next week we are going to be talking about.
Oh, there's a big
There's a what?
hornet there.
Oh no. That's the delights of living in the countryside. Jade and I live about 200 yards from each other.
They come from the chimney. They come from
Really?
the chimney, yeah.
We often get them upstairs as well. There's something about this area that seems to have a lot of wasps and things, because we seem to get them quite a bit as well. We're going to keep an eye on it. So I'll just carry on whilst you're sorting your wasp out. So Jade and I have been having a lot of conversations over this last couple of weeks about protection, about energy protection, about what are we protecting from? What are the best ways to protect ourselves? Do we need to protect ourselves? Understanding about what's outside of us and what's within us, and what all of those understandings are. And we've had a lot of conversations around this, and we've sort of come to some conclusions of our own that we would like to share. So we're going to be talking about energy protection, and as a result, we may be talking a little bit about entities and attachments, and just those sort of things that can come in, and what those potentially are, how we can shift them and deal with them, and how we best are able to navigate that energy. So whatever it is, whether it's somebody else's energy that's actually dominating yours, or whether it's coming from a different perspective, how can we actually work with those energies? So we're going to be looking at protection and what that looks like, and how that can
and our perspectives
on it, because
so many different ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
An interesting conversation.
It's an interesting conversation, because we've been taught by different people different things at different times, and so what's right? And so we've come to our perspective on what our opinions are on this, which we're going to share. So,
and through our own modalities of working with people, we've had different experiences, haven't we?
Yeah. And how we've worked with that. And so that's what we're going to be talking about next week, is protection. So we hope you can join us, and thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found it enjoyable, and thank you to everybody who's going to be listening to it on the recording. And we will look forward to seeing you again next week. So take care, have a wonderful week, and bye for now. Take care. Bye everyone.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.